So read Leviticus 18:1 again. Let me show you why we read Leviticus 18:1. Because what we read in Deuteronomy 22:5 was just a continuation or an expounding on the law of men being men, women being women. He never made us the same, and he never made us where one could be the other, right? Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 18, verse 1.
But watch where it came from. Read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God.
So first he had to let us know it's God speaking through Moses. I am the Lord your God. I'm telling you this through Moses. Go ahead.
After the doings of the land of Egypt.
But everything that you learned, the actions, functions, lifestyle, customs you learned in Egypt,
wherein ye dwelt,
where you used to be slaves,
shall ye not do.
You won't do that anymore. Read.
And after the doings of the land of Canaan.
Now Canaan are cousins or brothers to the Egyptians. They were brothers. Okay? Both of them are the children of Ham. So he said, now I brought you out of Egypt, but I'm sending you into a land called Canaan. The Canaanites were living the same way as the Egyptians. They were brothers. So he said, now going into this new land, read.
Whither I bring you,
where I'm sending you to,
shall ye not do.
I don't want you to follow them either because they have the same customs. Read.
Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
Neither shall ye walk according to their commandments or their customs. Jump down to 22. Verse 22. So notice, he brought us out of Egypt. He said, I just brought you out of there. I don't want you doing what you learned in Egypt anymore. Guess what we were learning in Egypt? In Egypt, we were learning to wear skirts and dresses because the Egyptian men wore them. The Egyptian, I got a book. I don't want to freak you out, but I'm going to be 100. I have a historical book on Egypt that shows that some of the pharaohs had a doctor that would take a straw and put it into their behinds and blow. There's pictures and accounts and records of these types of things happening in Egypt. So the Egyptian men were sleeping with each other. The Israelites were learning these things while we were slaves in Egypt. So now God is saying, I brought you out of that. Don't do that no more. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 22. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind.
What is that? There you go. So we just read in verse 1 and 2, what you learned in Egypt, don't do it anymore. Then through the rest of the chapter, he goes through things that we learned in Egypt and said, thou shalt not what?
Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind.
So men should not lay down carnally anymore. A man cannot have sex with a man. A woman cannot have sex with a woman. Those are things you learned in Egypt. And the land I'm sending you to, Canaan, that's going to become your land, they're doing the same thing. You cannot do it. That's the reason that that's coming out. So when we get to Deuteronomy 22 and 5, the pants is what God was solidifying for us so that we understood and never forgot. You wore dresses and skirts in Egypt as men. You don't do that anymore. Now I'm giving you pants or breeches to put on under your clothes. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, we wore garments, but they were men's garments and they were very different. You never saw, go back to Deuteronomy 22 real quick. Let me show us something. No, go back to Exodus, 28, 41. Let me show you something in that. Because like the officer was bringing out, there was a distinct dress code between the men and the women. Did you know that only men can be preachers? Yes. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm going to read the scripture for you. Actually, I'm going to let him bring it out. A woman is supposed to teach, but you're supposed to teach other women how to be godly women.
That's right.
So it's not that you can't be a teacher, but you're not going to stand at a podium and a pulpit with a congregation of people and you teaching the congregation. No, you're a teacher to the other women and the children.
Right.
The men are the ones that lead the flock. So watch what God says here. Read that.
Leviticus chapter 28, verse 41. And thou shalt put upon them, upon Aaron thy brother.
And actually, start at 39. Let me see. No, read 38 for me.
Verse 38. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things.
Because Aaron was the first high priest, meaning he was the lead priest. Okay, read.
With the children of Israel.
With the children of Israel. That's who he led. Go ahead.
Shall hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall be always it shall be always upon his forehead.
Why? Because the priesthood or the high priesthood always belonged to Aaron. It couldn't go to Moses' sons or anybody else. It always went through Aaron, the high priesthood. All right, go ahead.
that they may be accepted before the Lord.
See that? That God may accept them. So he chose the route that these men would stand in. He chose their lot. So no woman could ever stand in that. So now we're going to continue reading down. 39.
Verse 39.
Uh-huh.
And thou shalt embroider, and thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen.
So he said, on your coat of fine linen. So notice, he called it a coat. It wasn't called a dress or a skirt. It was a garment that the men wore as priests. And it was set up a certain way. It had certain embroidery on it. Go ahead.
And thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen.
And a mitre, which was a head covering for the men they wore at that time. Go ahead.
And thou shalt make the girdle of needlework.
And he had a girdle, which is this belt that you see here. This is a girdle. So there were very specific ways that a man, a priest especially, was supposed to dress. But this wasn't only for the priests, this was also for the men. Give me the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 3. 341. Daniel chapter 341. Yes. Daniel chapter 341. Now, you got your phone with you? 21. You got your phone with you? Pull up your Google real quick. I want you to look at something. We're going to read this scripture, and we're going to look for this word, and you tell me what it is. Read that.
Daniel chapter 3, verse 21.
Uh-huh.
Then these men were bound in their coats.
These men were bound in their coats. Guess what? Go back. Hold that. Don't let that go. You can let the other stuff go. Now, you can let that go. Hold Daniel. Go to Daniel chapter 1. Read verse 2 and 3. Daniel chapter 1, verse 2 and 3. Because what we were reading in Leviticus was given to the Levitical priests, right? So he had a head covering on. He had on a coat with embroidery on. He had a girdle, right? Yes. And it said that he had on breeches, a pair of pants. So most people would teach you in the churches, especially these pastors, they'll say, well, that was only for the priests back at that time. No, it never changed. God said, I am the Lord. I never change. I change not. So those men were Levites that wore that. They'll excuse and say the rest of the men didn't dress like that. Well, let's see. Daniel chapter 1, verse 3.
Daniel chapter 1, verse 3.
Uh-huh.
And the king spake unto Athanas,
Uh-huh.
the master of his eunuchs,
Eunuchs. Uh-huh.
that he should bring certain of the children of Israel.
So he told the eunuch to bring certain, meaning some of, particular ones of the children of Israel. Read.
And of the king's seed,
Uh-huh.
and of the princes,
And of the princes. Go ahead.
children in whom was no blemish,
Uh-huh.
but well favored and skillful in all wisdom,
Uh-huh.
and cunning in knowledge, and understanding, science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace.
So he wanted children that were very smart. They were nice, handsome young men, right? And they could stand in the king's palace. He could teach them the language, and they could be eloquent, and they could do the things and look like priestly men or royal men in his kingdom, but they were slaves, right? Read verse 6 so we can see who it is.
Verse 6.
Uh-huh.
Now among these were of the children of Judah.
The children of who?
Of Judah.
So now this is the tribe of Judah. So when we were reading in Leviticus, that was for the Levites. They were the priests. But now which tribe are we reading about? Judah. So now you see the Levites would be the Haitians today. Judah would be the American blacks. So if it was true that it was only given to the Levites, and right now we're talking about the children of Judah, right? So now go back to 421. So let's see what the children of Judah, who were not Levites, were wearing. Read that.
Daniel chapter 3, verse 21.
Uh-huh.
Then these men were bound in their coats.
So they had on coats like the priests, because these are men. This is what men wore. Read.
Their hosen.
They had on what?
Hosen.
On your phone, I want you to Google search the word hosen, Hosen, and then hit images. Hosen. What do you see there, sis? What do you see? So what does the word hosen go back to? Pants. So it wasn't just the Levitical priests that were told to wear pants. All men of the children of Israel were told to wear pants.
That's right.
Sisters and women were never given pants. Does that make sense now? So we were never this. The Bible tells you all through it, but the church has never taught who we were and what we were commanded to do.
Right.
You understand? But what the officer was bringing out is why we went into slavery. Do you remember what he said from the Bible? Why did we go into slavery? Lack of knowledge. Deuteronomy 28:15, and then I'm going to give it back to you. Deuteronomy 28:15. So you see that? Breeches, hosen, everything went back to pants, but it was only given to the men. The sisters never wore it. Now, today, a woman can wear a skirt, and she can wear her tights under it, because tights are underwear. You look, I'm guessing you about 43, 44? 45, okay, cool. So when you were young, would your granny let you go out the house with your drawers on? Tights or drawers? You had, right, back then, you remember, so we in the same age group. You remember back when biking tights was popular? A lot of people used to wear them, but it wasn't really a thing. You was a ride, you wore them under your skirt. So it's the same thing today. A sister's still supposed to wear tights under her skirts and dresses. They can be long down to your ankles and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But a woman is still supposed to wear tights because those are underwear. Men ain't supposed to be walking around in tights no more.
Right.
We got whole pants to wear. All right? So it's a difference. Now read that, Deuteronomy 28:15.
Deuteronomy.
Why did we lose our position on earth? Why are we under the condition that we're under? Very good. So the children of Israel is who were 21, Deuteronomy 1:1. You can drop Daniel. Just go to 1:1, then we're coming back to 28:15. Because we out here telling the truth. The Bible is the only book on earth, the only commands on earth that can take a thug and turn him into a man of God.
Bring it out.
And that man of God will then go out and he'll no longer whore out his sisters, sell dope, rob and steal from nobody. He now will be working righteously, finding a woman, making a wife, and then raising up kids with the same mentality as him, and they can't hustle us no more. That's the problem. Okay, I got you, big bro. All right. 1:1, Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel.
So who is Moses speaking to? To the Israelites, these 12 tribes, blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, right? 28:15. So let's see one of the things that he told us. This is going to answer your question perfectly.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15.
Uh-huh.
But it shall come to pass,
It's going to happen in the future.
if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
Israel, if you don't listen to the commandments that I'm about to give you from God,
to observe, to do all.
Wait, stress that word. To observe.
To observe, to do all.
No. Two-letter word. Very strong. Express it. To observe, to
observe, to do all his commandments.
What did it say? Right, but it gave a two-letter word. Very important. Do. That's the word we want. To observe, to do them. Not just hear them, because it's not the hearer of the word, but the doer of the word. Same thing in the New Testament. You understand? So he said to hear and do them. Read.
And to do all his commandments.
All of them.
And his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So if the children of Israel did not do all of the commandments, what was he going to do to them? All these what?
Curses.
All these what?
Curses.
Is a curse a good thing or a bad thing? Are we living under a curse or are we living under blessings? We up under a curse. So why did we go into the conditions that we live in? There you go. All praises, sis.
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models.